Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're unpacking a pretty major investigation. We're talking about some really serious allegations that were thrown at the Cardano ecosystem, specifically around its early voucher program.
Okay, so let's really dive in. The whole thing really boils down to one big question, right? Was there some actual, wrongdoing going on with how Cardano handled its first ADA vouchers? Or was this all just a huge case of damaging misinformation? It's this very question that kicked off a massive third-party investigation to finally get some real answers.
All right, Section 1, Whispers, Rumors, and Accusations. So, you might be wondering, where did all this even start? Well, like a lot of controversies these days, it really kicked off with a bunch of public accusations that started to pick up steam on social media. And, it got to a point where a formal response was pretty much unavoidable.
And look, we're not talking about minor complaints here. These were 5 major allegations, and every single one was incredibly serious. I mean, the claims were all over the place, from insiders straight up stealing or misusing ADA to using shady sales tactics. There were even accusations that blockchain upgrades were intentionally designed to stop people from getting their assets back, or that the upgrades somehow deleted private keys. I mean, heavy stuff.
Okay, Section 2, launching a formal investigation. So with all these concerns swirling around, Input-Output Global, one of Cardano's founding entities, had to do something. And they decided a simple press release just wasn't going to cut it. Nope. Instead, they went all in and commissioned a full-blown, independent investigation to really get to the bottom of things.
And they didn't just hire any old firm either. They brought in the big guns. We're talking 2 absolute heavy hitters, the global law firm McDermott, Will & Schultz, and the global accounting firm BDO. The whole point was to make sure this investigation and forensic audit was credible, completely impartial, and super thorough.
And just look at the sheer scale of this investigation. It really tells you how seriously they took this. I mean, this was no surface-level glance. The teams literally dug through tens of thousands of documents. They conducted 18 formal interviews with, pretty much everyone involved. Current employees, former employees, even the voucher holders themselves. On top of all that, they did a deep dive forensic analysis, both on-chain and off-chain. Talk about leaving no stone unturned.
Section 3, the verdict. Key findings. So the big question is, after all that digging, all that intensive work, what did the report actually find? What was the verdict? Well, let's get right to it.
And wow, the verdict was crystal clear. The investigators' conclusion was completely unambiguous. I'm going to quote this directly from their final report because it's that important. The investigation determined that each of the allegations related to the topics of investigation do not have any basis. So let me translate that. They found 0 evidence. Every single allegation was found to be baseless. Period.
And they didn't just say that, they had the data to back it up. The audit turned up some really powerful numbers. What it showed was that a massive, overwhelming majority of all the ADA sold through that voucher program was in fact successfully redeemed by the people who bought it.
So just how overwhelming are we talking? Get this, 99.7%. That is an incredible number. That means nearly all of the ADA from the program ended up exactly where it was meant to be, safe and sound in the wallets of the people who held the vouchers.
The investigation also went a step further and tackled some of those specific, ugly claims head-on. For instance, you remember that really troubling allegation that the program was preying on the elderly with deceptive tactics? Well, the investigators looked right into the data. And what did they find? Only about 6%, 6.11 to be exact, of the voucher buyers were 65 or older. That finding just completely knocks the legs out from under that claim.
Section 4, the remaining funds explained. Okay, but that still leaves one little piece of the puzzle, doesn't it? You might be thinking, what about that tiny 0.3%? It's not a lot, but what happened to that small sliver of ADA that was never actually redeemed?
Well, the report lays out a super clear and totally transparent path for those funds. First, that unredeemed ADA, we're talking about 68.25 million, was transferred over to a holding entity called Cardano Development Holdings. Then, a brand new nonprofit was set up to act as the administrator for those funds. And the whole purpose? To dedicate that money to supporting the growth of the Cardano ecosystem. Think grants, community initiatives, and even a big contract to ensure the long-term continuity of the infrastructure.
And that new nonprofit has a name. It's called Intersect. It was formally established as a proper legal entity based in Wyoming. Its one and only job is to oversee these funds and make absolutely sure they're used transparently for the good of the entire community.
It's actually a really key piece of the whole governance puzzle for Cardano.
So when you step back and look at the big picture, the real takeaway here isn't just about this one case. By taking the step to commission a deep independent investigation, and then, this is the crucial part, making the entire report public for anyone to read, Cardano has set a really powerful precedent. And it leaves us with a fascinating question for the whole crypto world, right? In an industry that is literally built on trust, is this kind of public, no-holds-barred audit going to be the new gold standard for transparency when things get messy?